Welcome back to Talk Tensors, the show where we break down the latest and greatest in machine learning research, all that good stuff.
Yeah, diving deep into the papers.
That's right. And today we're looking at a paper that grapples with a pretty fundamental question. With all these super powerful language models that are popping up left and right, each with their own strengths.
Yeah.
How do we combine their powers effectively without drowning in a sea of training complexity?
Right, because that's kind of the big thing, right? You've got all of these different large language models.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that a model that's amazing at math might not be the best at, say, biology questions or writing a poem or vice versa.
So, exactly. No single model can be the ultimate jack of all trades.
Yes.
The master of everything.
Yeah.
So the natural thought that comes to mind is, let's team these specialists up, right? Like assembling a dream team of AI to tackle a really tough challenge. But the way we've traditionally approached this, by training these gigantic models with their own internal set of experts, has been incredibly resource intensive.
Yeah.
And it's not super adaptable when new and better models come along.
And those are coming along all the time, right?
All the time.
Like constantly new models.
Yeah. And that's where this paper we're diving into today.
Yeah.
Symbolic Mixture-of-Experts, adaptive skill-based routing for heterogeneous reasoning. It offers like a really refreshing approach.
It's a good one.
It is a good one. They've developed this framework called Symbolic MoE, which is actually a surprisingly clever and efficient way to pick and choose from these existing pre-trained LLMs to handle different parts of a problem.
It's kind of like, rather than just training one massive model, it's saying, well, we've got all these really powerful models out there. Let's see if we can just leverage those directly.
Exactly. So let's break down the Symbolic MoE a bit.
Okay.
It is a mixture of experts approach, but with a very crucial difference.
Right.
Instead of these experts being like components within a giant model, they're entirely independent LLMs that are already out there in the world.
Right. Totally separate.
Totally separate. And the really smart part is how it determines which of these experts to call in for a given task.
Like, you need a specific skill.
Yeah.
Let's go grab the model that's really good at that.
And that's exactly their core idea.
Yeah.
Skill-based recruiting.
Yeah.
So when Symbolic MoE encounters a problem, the first thing it does,
it tries to figure out, what do I need here?
What do I need and what skills are necessary to solve it? So if it's a tricky algebra problem, it's going to identify algebra as a key skill.
Yeah.
If it's a question about the human heart, it'll look for cardiology or anatomy. So it's almost like a talent scout for AI. It's like it identifies the necessary expertise, and then it scans its database of available LLMs.
Right. Like, okay, who's the best?
To find the best fit for those skills.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is really key for you, the listener, because the system isn't just throwing models at the problem randomly.
Right.
It's carefully curating this expert team based on the specific needs of the task.
Like a project manager.
Like a project manager,
All right. I need someone who's good at this, this, and this.
Exactly. And that hopefully leads to more accurate and comprehensive answers.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So tell me a little bit about how these profiles are actually built.
Okay, so each LLM in its roster has something called a model profile. Think of it like an AI resume, highlighting the model's strengths and different skills.
Okay.
How do they build that? They give them practice problems, essentially, right?
Okay.
They have a set of validation questions. They see how well the model does on questions related to different skills. And based on the performance, they adjust the scores.
Okay.
So a model might be really good at algebra. Its score for algebra goes up. Not so good at history. The score for history goes down.
Got it. So it's learning from these practice rounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Now then, when a new problem comes in, it analyzes the required skills.
Okay, this is what I need.
It goes to these AI resumes.
Let me see who's good at this.
And then selects a team.
Right. All right, this is the dream team for this problem.
And the most qualified LLMs.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
So then each of these selected experts gets to work generating their own line of reasoning, what they call a chain of thought process, to try to arrive at a solution.
So instead of one answer, you're getting multiple perspectives?
You're getting multiple perspectives, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And each one informed by that specific model's strengths.
So do these AI experts then have some kind of virtual brainstorming session?
Well, Not exactly.
Okay.
What happens next is they bring in another LLM.
Okay.
Called the aggregator model.
Okay. And what does the aggregator do?
The aggregator is not trying to solve the problem itself. Its specialty is taking in all these different reasoning paths and answers from all the experts and then synthesize them into a single, hopefully very accurate, final response.
So to the team lead?
It's the team lead. It's the synthesizer.
And making all the different ideas.
Yeah, okay, this is what we're going with.
And then coming up with the final answer.
Exactly.
Now, this actually brings up an interesting point. Just because you have a bunch of really great individual contributors doesn't mean they're going to work well as a team or that they can synthesize all that information effectively.
Absolutely. You need that separate skill set of bringing everything together.
Exactly. So the choice of aggregator must be important.
It's super important. And they actually select the aggregator strategically based on how well it's proven to combine different answers.
Oh, interesting.
So they have a process for selecting the aggregator as well.
That's really fascinating. Now using multiple LLMs like this sounds like it could quickly become computationally very expensive. It could.
How does Symbolic MoE manage that?
So this is where they have one of their most innovative ideas.
Okay.
They use a batch inference strategy.
Okay.
So rather than processing each problem completely separately with its chosen set of experts, it groups together similar tasks for each expert.
Okay.
So let's say you have multiple problems that all need the algebra expert.
Okay.
Instead of loading that model multiple times, they load it once and run all those algebra subtasks in a single batch.
So they're doing all the algebra at once.
Doing all the algebra at once, which drastically reduces the overhead of loading and unloading all these different models.
And for the listener, this means that...
This means you can actually run this quite complex system relatively efficiently. You get the power of the combined intelligence, but without the massive computational cost.
That's amazing. So they're able to run up to 16 experts.
Yeah, up to 16 models in their experiment.
On a single GPU.
On a single piece of hardware. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have this really clever approach.
Yeah.
What kind of results did Symbolic MoE actually achieve?
The results are pretty impressive.
Okay.
They tested it on a wide range of benchmarks.
Yeah.
Covering difficult professional exams, advanced math competitions, medical knowledge tests, all sorts of challenging problems.
Oh, world stuff.
Yeah, real world tasks.
Okay.
And across the board, Symbolic MoE consistently achieved higher accuracy than even very strong individual LLMs, including some big names like GPT-4 Mini, which is a very powerful model.
Yeah.
They saw an average improvement of over 8% compared to other methods of combining multiple LLMs.
Wow, so very significant.
And a huge jump.
Jump in performance. Yeah, and it did all of this without requiring that enormous effort of jointly training all these models together.
Right, which is the really cool part. It's all about being smart about leveraging what already exists and finding ways to bring those powers together without having to start from scratch.
It's like it's giving you a shortcut.
It is a shortcut
to a deeper level of understanding by leveraging all this pre-existing knowledge.
Exactly.
So it seems like this Symbolic MoE is kind of a game changer.
It's a big deal.
In the field.
Right.
It offers this practical and effective way to tap into this collective intelligence of these large language models.
And it's only going to become more important as we have more and more specialized models out there.
Exactly. And to really understand the nuances of Symbolic MoE and why it's generating so much excitement in the research world, we need to dig into how the authors presented their work in the paper itself.
Okay.
And they follow a structure that they've nicknamed SDDSD.
They do, yeah.
Which sounds catchy, yeah.
Yeah.
So first we have the introduction, where they really set the stage for the problem they're trying to solve.
Yeah, they start off by drawing this analogy to human collaboration, which is really interesting. They point out how humans naturally seek out individuals with specific expertise.
Yeah, we go to the expert.
Right. You wouldn't go to a car mechanic to fix your plumbing.
Right, exactly.
And they argue that LLMs are similar. Cool. They have these different strengths based on how they've been trained.
Based on the data they've been fed.
Exactly. So a model that's been trained on a ton of math data is probably going to be amazing at solving equations.
Right.
But maybe not so great at writing poetry or analyzing literature.
Makes sense.
And even within a domain like mathematics, one model might excel at algebra, while another one is a geometry whiz.
That makes sense.
Right. So this inherent diversity in skills is really the core motivation behind their approach of this automated skill-based expert selection.
So they're really emphasizing that the right model for the right job.
Yeah. Let's pick the best tool for the task.
Exactly. And they highlight how by smartly combining these models, you can actually surpass the performance of even the most powerful single model.
Right. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
The dream team analogy.
Yeah.
But the traditional approach of training these massive mixture of experts models from scratch, it's very computationally expensive.
It is. It takes a lot of time and resources.
And it limits your flexibility to easily swap in newer and better models.
Yeah. You're stuck with what you trained.
Yeah. So Symbolic MoE comes in as this really clever alternative.
Right.
And it uses language itself, these symbolic structures, to figure out which expert to use and how to combine their insights.
Yeah, it's a very elegant approach. And they're very clear about the two main challenges they're addressing.
Okay, what are those?
One, how to effectively choose the right experts.
Okay.
And two, how to scale this process of combining their reasoning.
Got it. So that's the introduction.
It sets the stage.
So setting the stage, then they move into the related work section.
Right.
Which is crucial for understanding where this research fits into the broader landscape.
Absolutely. Academics love their related work section.
They do.
It's all about showing how your work builds upon and distinguishes itself from what's already out there.
And it's important for the listener, too, to understand kind of the historical context.
Yeah, what came before.
So what do they talk about in the related work?
So they carefully differentiate Symbolic MoE from the traditional mixture-of-experts models, where the experts are really just layers within a single giant neural network.
All trained together?
All trained together. So it's a very different approach.
Yeah.
Symbolic MoE is using these separate pre-trained models, communicating through language, rather than operating within this one monolithic network.
Got it.
They also discuss sparse MoE, which is a more efficient version of the traditional MoE, where only the most relevant experts within that large model are activated for a given input. But again, the key difference is Symbolic MoE combines entire pre-existing models based on their language outputs.
So it's operated on a different level.
It's a higher level of abstraction.
Yeah.
Then they talk about mixture-of-agents approaches, MoE, and self-MoE.
Yeah.
And these are methods that combine multiple LLMs, but often by having them engage in these multi-round discussions to refine their answers.
Oh, interesting.
Which can be really computationally expensive.
Yeah.
Because you're running these models multiple times.
Right.
Symbolic MoE is much more streamlined. It does this adaptive skill-based selection, and it combines their reasoning very efficiently.
In one shot.
Yeah, in a single round.
So that's a big efficiency gain.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, they touch upon some other research in multi-agent reasoning, including student-teacher models and debate frameworks, highlighting that Symbolic MoE is doing something quite different. It's automating this expert selection based on very specific skills.
Right. And it's designed for efficiency by avoiding these lengthy back and forth discussions.
Got it. So they really lay the groundwork for the novelty of their approach.
They do a good job of placing their work in context.
Okay. So then they move on to their methodology.
Right. This is where the rubber hits the road.
This is where they tell you how it works. So walk me through it.
Okay. So they break their methodology down into three main stages. Pre-processing, expert recruitment, and final answer generation.
Okay, so let's start with pre-processing.
All right, in the pre-processing phase, there are two key parts. First, model profile creation, which we touched on earlier.
The AI resume.
The AI resumes, exactly.
Right.
And they use a validation data set and another LLM, which they call the keyword LLM.
Interesting.
To identify the core skills that each question tests.
Oh, so this keyword LLM is almost like a librarian.
It is. It's like a librarian that can scan a question and say,
okay, this is about algebra. This is about history.
It's identifying the subject matter.
Exactly. And then they test each LLM in their expert pool on these validation questions. If a model answers a question correctly, its score for that skill goes up. If it gets it wrong, the score goes down.
So it's like it's being tested?
Yeah, it's like an exam. And through this process, they build that skill profile for each model.
Got it. So that's model profile creation.
Yep. The second part of pre-processing is aggregator selection.
Okay.
So remember we talked about the aggregator team lead, right?
Yeah.
Well, they need to figure out which model is best at taking all these diverse expert answers and combining them effectively.
Yes.
So how do they do that? They create a synthetic test for each question in the validation set.
Yeah.
They take one correct reasoning chain and a couple of incorrect ones, and they feed those to each model.
Okay.
And they say, okay, you're the aggregator now.
All right, give me the final answer.
Got it.
And then they see which model is most successful at picking out the right answer from that mix.
Okay.
And that becomes the chosen aggregator for that type of task.
So they're finding the best synthesizer for the job.
Exactly. They're looking for that specific skill set.
Okay. So pre-processing is all about understanding what skills are needed, figuring out which models are good at what, and identifying which models are good at synthesizing.
Setting up the system.
So then what happens during inference when Symbolic MoE faces a brand new, unseen question?
Okay, so now we move on to the expert recruitment stage.
Okay.
This is where they apply all that knowledge they've gained during pre-processing.
Okay.
So for the new question, they again use the keyword LLM to identify the skills that seem to be required.
Right, so the librarian's back.
The librarian is back, scanning that question.
Okay.
And then they use a technique called sentence BERT.
Sentence BERT, okay.
Which helps to match the question to the model profiles.
Okay. Sentence BERT is really good at understanding the meaning of sentences.
Yeah.
So it can say, okay, this question is similar to these types of questions.
Got it. So it's looking for models with the right skills based on the question.
Exactly. And then for each model, they calculate something called a local suitability score based on how well its profile matches the required skills.
Okay, how well does this model fit the skills we need right now for this question?
They also factor in a global competency score.
Okay, what is that?
Which is like a measure of the model's overall intelligence.
So it's overall smarts.
Yeah. How good is this model generally? Okay. And then they combine those two scores into a final relevance score for each model.
Got it. So they're taking into account both specialized skills and general intelligence.
Yeah, it's a balanced approach.
And then they select a small team, the top K expert models.
Okay. The best of the best.
The best of the best for that specific question. All right, so the dream team's assembled.
Yeah. The dream team is ready to go.
Okay. And what happens next?
So then we move into the final answer generation stage.
Okay.
Each of these recruited experts generates their own chain of thought reasoning.
Okay.
And they come up with their own answer. And those are then fed to the task-specific aggregator.
The one we chose in pre-processing.
The one we carefully selected during pre-processing. And that aggregator then produces the final answer.
Okay, so it takes all the insights from the team and it synthesizes them into a final response.
Exactly. And remember, they also use that scalable batch inference.
Yes, to make it more efficient.
To make it more efficient, yeah.
So they're grouping similar tasks together.
Exactly.
And processing them in batches.
To minimize all that overhead of loading and unloading models.
So it's like they're optimizing the workflow.
Yeah, it's like a well-oiled AI machine.
It sounds very well thought out.
It is.
Combining that intelligent selection with efficient execution.
Absolutely. A lot of clever ideas in this paper.
All right. So then we move on to the results and analysis section.
Right, where they show whether this whole thing actually works.
Did it work?
It did, yeah.
Okay, good.
The results were very compelling.
All right, give me the details.
So they provide a really detailed account of their experimental setup.
Okay.
They list out the 16 different LLMs that were in their pool of potential experts.
So a good range of models.
A really good mix of models.
Okay.
Different sizes, different areas of specialization.
Okay.
They tested Symbolic MoE on these diverse and challenging benchmarks that we've been talking about.
The math competitions, the medical stuff.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
Okay.
And they compared its performance to a wide array of baseline methods.
Okay, like what?
So they compared it to strong single LLMs in a zero-shot setting.
So just using one model by itself?
One model trying to do its best on its own.
Okay.
They compared it to more advanced single model techniques that use extra computation at inference time to kind of refine their answers.
Okay, so still one model, But giving it some help.
Yeah, giving it some extra tools.
Okay.
Then they compared it to methods that use multiple instances of the same model to do simulated discussion.
Okay, so like having the model talk to itself.
Yeah, basically.
To see if that improves things.
Exactly. And finally, they compared it to other existing multi-model approaches that use a fixed set of diverse models.
Okay, so similar to Symbolic MoE, but without that dynamic selection.
Right, without the skill-based recruiting.
Got it.
And the main finding, the big takeaway, is that Symbolic MoE consistently outperformed all of these baselines.
Wow.
Across all the different types of tasks.
That's incredible. It's like it was the clear winner.
It was clear winner. They saw that average accuracy improvement of over 8%.
Yeah.
Which is significant.
Yeah.
And it even held its own against much larger models.
Okay.
Like 70 billion parameter models.
Wow.
Which are massive.
Those are huge.
And some really strong proprietary models.
Okay, so it's competing with the best of the best.
Yeah, it's punching above its weight.
And winning.
And winning.
So they're not just showing these big headline numbers.
Right.
They're also really digging into the analysis.
Yeah. They want to understand why Symbolic MoE is so successful.
Okay. What did they find?
So they looked closely at how important that skill-based expert selection really is.
Mm-hmm.
So they compared their approach to some simpler approaches.
Oh, right.
Like just picking the top performing models overall.
Okay.
Or randomly selecting a team of models.
Right.
And the results really confirmed that their granular skill-aware selection is crucial.
Okay.
Simply choosing models that are generally good at a task wasn't enough.
You need that specific expertise.
You need that specific expertise for each individual question.
Okay, so it's not just about being smart in general.
Right.
It's about having the right skills for the job.
Yeah, like a surgeon needs to be good at surgery in general, but they also need to specialize in a particular type of surgery.
Exactly.
They also investigated the role of the aggregator. Remember the team lead?
Yeah, how to choose it, how to use it.
Exactly. And they found that using a random aggregator significantly hurt performance.
Okay.
So that choice is really important.
It matters.
It matters a lot.
Okay.
While using an aggregator that was specifically chosen for each problem helped.
Okay.
The best results came from using a task-specific aggregator.
Okay.
So one that's been identified as being really good at synthesizing answers for that particular type of problem.
So it's not just about general intelligence for the aggregator either.
It's not. It's about that specific skill set of combining information.
That's fascinating.
They even experimented with adding a round of discussion among the experts before aggregation.
Yeah, to see if that helps.
Yeah, to see if having them chat it out a bit would improve things.
Okay.
But they found that with a strong aggregator in place, the benefit of that extra discussion was minimal.
Interesting.
So that further supports their approach of this efficient single round reasoning.
So choose your experts wisely.
Yes.
Choose your aggregator wisely.
Yes.
And let them do their work.
Let them work their magic.
Okay. So then they wrap things up with the discussion and conclusion section.
Right. The grand finale.
Where they summarize their key contributions.
Yeah. They really highlight the consistent performance of Symbolic MoE across this wide variety of tasks.
It did a great job.
It did.
Across the board.
Yeah, and they emphasize its modularity.
Okay.
So unlike traditional mixture-of-experts, which require you to retrain the whole thing if you want to incorporate new experts, Symbolic MoE is very plug and play.
Okay.
You can just drop in new models.
Add new experts.
Add new experts, create their skill profiles, and you're good to go.
So it's very adaptable.
It's very adaptable, which is a huge advantage.
Especially in this rapidly evolving world of LLMs.
Exactly, where new models are coming out all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And they position Symbolic MoE as a really effective way to scale the capabilities of AI at inference time.
Okay, so at the moment when you're actually using it to solve a problem.
Yeah, not during training, but when you need an answer.
Got it.
And they argue that it outperforms other methods through its smart expert selection and this efficient batch processing.
So it's fast, it's accurate.
It's fast, it's accurate, it's flexible.
It feels like a winner.
Yeah, it's a really strong framework.
Okay, so it seems like Symbolic MoE is a really significant contribution to the field of machine learning.
Yeah.
It's giving us this practical and effective way to leverage this collective intelligence of this ever-growing number of LLMs.
Yeah.
So now, as is tradition here on Talk Tensors, we're going to move on to our novel notions segment.
That's always fun.
Where we explore some potential future research directions that this work inspires.
Yeah, speculating a bit.
Speculating a bit, blue sky thinking.
Yeah.
So what novel notions did this research spark for you?
So one really interesting avenue that I think this paper opens up is related to that keyword LLM. Remember the librarian that identifies the skills?
Yes.
Currently, they use a single fixed keyword LLM.
Okay.
But what if we could make that process even smarter and more adaptive?
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
Imagine dynamically selecting the keyword LLM itself based on the input question.
So different librarians for different types of questions.
Exactly, because it's plausible that different LLMs might be better at understanding and pinpointing the specific skills in different domains.
That makes sense.
Right, so maybe